Hey everybody, hope you guys are healthy and safe. So I have here the Oppo Reno 6 Pro. Now this is the European version that runs on a Qualcomm Snapdragon chip. So it differs from the India version of the Oppo Reno 6 Pro because that phone ran on, I believe, a MediaTek Dimensity SoC. Now other than SoC, the cameras are a little bit different too. I believe this model was released in China as the Oppo Reno 6 Pro Plus. So basically this phone in China is the Pro Plus. In Europe, it's just the Pro, and then in India, they have their own Pro that's different from this phone. So yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but I'm still excited to test this out because I've always had a soft spot for the Reno series because 2.5 years ago, I was invited by Oppo to attend the launch of the original Oppo Reno. The launch was held in Zurich, Switzerland, a beautiful country, and the launch day of the event actually was the same day that Avengers Endgame opened in theaters. I remember, because like everyone else in the world, I was really anticipating that movie. So basically, that morning I woke up early, took a train 1 hour outside of Zurich city center to watch Avengers Endgame, and then I rushed back to the city to attend the launch event of the Oppo Reno like that afternoon at like 2 p.m. or something. It was quite an experience. And on top of that, I really did like the original Oppo Reno 10x zoom phone. It was one of the very first phones with a periscope camera. It had a unique shark fin design. It was just a really unique flagship. And since then, I've gotten my hands on, I believe, just about every Oppo Reno release, like the Oppo Reno Z, Oppo Reno Ace, Oppo Reno 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, starting with about the Oppo Reno 3, the Reno series stopped being a flagship phone. It basically became a mid-tier phone. Oppo started using a mid-tier SoC and removed the zoom lens completely. In the Oppo Reno 4 and 5, there was no zoom lens at all. So I'm excited to report that with the Reno 6 Pro, at least the European version, this is a return to form for the Reno series because this phone is almost a flagship phone. Now, not quite a premium flagship like Oppo Find X3 Pro, but this is definitely above a typical mid-tier phone. Here it is, the Reno 6 Pro. So what makes this basically a flagship again? Well, first of all, this is the first Oppo Reno phone to run on a Snapdragon 800 series chip since the first one. The chip inside is a Snapdragon 870. Now the 870 is basically a souped up version of the 865 Plus. So this is almost a flagship SoC. It is just a notch below the Snapdragon 888. This is the second most powerful SoC that Qualcomm has to offer right now, and you're getting it in the Reno 6 Pro. This is a big improvement over the Oppo Reno 4 Pro, which ran on a Snapdragon 765G, and the Oppo Reno 5 Pro, which ran on a MediaTek Dimensity chip. Next up, the zoom lens is back. So up here, it's a 13 megapixel telephoto camera that can do 2x optical zoom with 5x hybrid zoom. That's very close to optical, and you can get up to 20x digital zoom. Now at 20x digital zoom, images do appear a little bit soft, but drop down to 10x and you still get a respectable image. This is a big jump over the Oppo Reno 4 and 5 Pro because those phones did not have a zoom lens at all. So any zoom is digital zoom. So the main camera here in the middle also got an improvement too. So it is a 50 megapixel Sony IMX766 camera with an image sensor size of 1/1.56 inch. Now this is not the largest image sensor around if you compare it to premium flagship phones like the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra or the Galaxy S21 Ultra. But if you compare this image sensor to previous Oppo Reno cameras or other mid-tier phones, it's a big improvement. This camera also has optical image stabilization, which the last Reno's main camera did not have. Down here is a 16 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, f2.2 aperture with a 123 degree field of view. Up here it's a 2 megapixel macro sensor, and then down here it's a color temperature sensor. Now at first I thought this was going to be a gimmick lens, but it actually does seem to work because this phone can do some very fun and effective camera tricks. More on that later. Now this back material is glass with a special coating that Oppo calls Reno Glow. It's this textured coating that doesn't attract fingerprints and shimmers under different lighting. Now around the front, it's a 32 megapixel selfie camera and it is underneath a pretty nice 6.5 inch AMOLED display, 1080p resolution, 90 Hz refresh rate with an aspect ratio of 20:9. Colors, as you can see, is quite lively. Viewing angles are pretty good, and it supports HDR10+. So this phone is pretty good for consuming media because you have good stereo speakers too. Now under the hood is 12 gigs of RAM with a 4,500 mAh battery that can be charged at 65 watt speeds. The charging brick is included with the packaging. There is no wireless charging and there is no IP rated water resistance. So the phone is nicely constructed, aluminum railings, and the thickness is only 7.99 millimeters, so just a hair under 8 millimeters, and it weighs only 188 grams, so it's a really lightweight and compact phone to hold. So all these components I just rattled off, you know, if you know smartphones, you know they're not quite premium flagship territory, but they're definitely better than standard mid-tier territory either. They're closer to flagship than mid-tier status. And this goes for little things too. The Oppo Reno 6 Pro has much better haptics than any previous Oppo Reno devices I've tested. The haptic engine in here is the same one used in the Oppo Find X3 Pro, so it's Oppo's best haptic engine. It is an X-axis linear motor. What that means is when you're typing, you feel individual feedback as you press into the keys. When you're zooming in and out the zoom dial, you feel a little bit of rumbling in the phone as if you're manually twisting a dial. Now just focusing on hardware, there's already a lot to like, especially considering that this phone is quite affordable. The version of this phone selling in China, the Pro Plus, starts at just 3,999 Chinese yuan. That comes out to a little bit over 600 US dollars, like 610 or something. Now I'm pretty sure in Europe, unfortunately, you guys are gonna get a markup. It's not gonna be around 600 US dollars, but if I have to guess, I think it's gonna be around 700 US or maybe 750 US. So it's not cheap, but it's definitely several $100s away from other premium flagships out there. But as is increasingly the case of Oppo phones, what makes the Reno 6 Pro so good to use is not just hardware, it's also software. I've already gone on record many times, you know, in at least like 8-9 videos about how much I like ColorOS. It is my favorite Android skin right now. Everything from the fact that everything can be customizable, from the color scheme to the icon shapes to all the various gestures that you can do. That you can double tap on the screen to turn on, double tap to lock, draw a circle to launch a camera. You have a useful one-hand mode. Just all these shortcut and gestures and customizations that many other Android software don't give you. But the biggest software addition this year is the Reno 6 can shoot videos with digital artificial bokeh. Oppo calls it bokeh flare. And it actually looks pretty good because I know other phones have offered this feature in the past and it always looked really fake. With the 6 Pro, it actually looks quite natural. Now, not as good as a natural bokeh from a real camera or a phone with a huge image sensor like the Sharp Arcos R6, but it is pretty good considering this is not a premium flagship phone. And you can use this mode with the main camera or the selfie camera too. There's also other smart camera AI tricks like auto track a subject with just a double tap, or AI highlight video, which artificially brings in more light into a dark scene. Now the Snapdragon 870 chipset supports 5G and it is optimized for gaming. And gaming on the Reno 6 Pro is pretty good because Oppo's ColorOS also has a really intuitive software box. It's like a gaming box that you can swipe in whenever you're gaming. And from there, you can do things like block notifications or open chat apps in a smaller window so you don't have to exit out your game to respond to a WhatsApp message. And also you can optimize the screen for touch sensitivity. Like you can increase touch sensitivity if you're playing a first-person shooter. And if you care about benchmarks, these are the scores. Now battery life is really good because this is only a 90 Hz panel. And if you want to top up the phone, just a 10-minute top up will add like 40% battery to your phone. You can fully charge the phone in like just a little bit over 20 minutes. So yeah, this is the Oppo Reno 6 Pro in a nutshell. Like I said, I'm very happy that the 6 Pro is a return to form for the Oppo Reno series because the Oppo Reno 3, 4, and 5 were pretty clearly mid-tier phones. Now the 6 Pro is almost a flagship again, and best of all, Oppo is not charging you flagship prices. If you buy this in China or Hong Kong, you can get this for around 600 US dollars, and that's a pretty damn good price. Even in Europe, with that typical European markup, it is still an okay price. It is no longer as great a deal as it is here in Asia, but I think it's still okay. So yeah, that about wraps it up for this video. I have a lot more stuff coming up. As you know, August is a very, very busy month. So if you're interested in keeping up to date with all the latest smartphone releases, please consider subscribing to my channel or follow me on Instagram at Ben's Gadget Reviews. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.